Stefon Diggs admitting that Gabe Davis would be our wide receiver one if he wasn't here and that he's fully capable of being a wide receiver one. Brandon Beane admitting that Deontay Hardy is now going to have to fill into the role of special team kick and punt returner due to Nyheim Hines. Also, some rumors swirling that there are some negotiations happening with that contract. But welcome to my channel here, Bills News Consolidated. A ton of questions were answered during this first day of the 2023 Buffalo Bills training camp. First and foremost, we heard the Stefon Diggs is completely okay with the Buffalo Bills and the situation of everything that's going on here. You know, he didn't get into exactly why there was a little bit of an incident during OTAs, him leaving and all those things, but he does seem focused on this team. Everyone is past that event, and really it boils down to winning. One thing I think the reporters should have asked was the departure of Chad Hall, how close Chad Hall was to the Stefon Diggs and the other wide receivers on this team. So I think that is something that maybe added to Stefon Diggs' frustration. But Sean McDermott, Brandon Beane, Von Miller, all revealing so much about this Buffalo Bills team here. And really the most important thing I think we heard was that Dorian Williams is going to be backing up Matt Milano for his rookie season. I think Brandon Beane, Sean McDermott revealing that it's just a little bit too much on the plate of a Dorian Williams coming from a college that didn't necessarily have the same scheme. And, you know, Sean McDermott calling plays, first time calling plays on this defense. We heard Micah Hyde and all these players talking about communication. Make sure you communicate. You need to have that solid flow of communication on a play-to-play basis on that field. Can Dorian Williams do that for the Buffalo Bills at middle linebacker his rookie year? It is not going to happen. So we basically just eliminated a player from this competition. You know, and one other player that was hyping up, Tyrel Dodson, T-Dot. Watch my game film study review that I released after the draft showing how dynamic Tyrel Dodson can actually be. But Von Miller was specifically asked, like, what kind of distraction is it? Like, how do you feel about not knowing who your quarterback of the defense is, not knowing who the middle linebacker is? And Von Miller completely brushed it off. And he was even saying, like, I'm not worried about the competition. Like, Tyrel Dodson was in there today, and he did great. And you look at that Pittsburgh Steelers game last year, Tyrel Dodson filling in for Tremaine Edmonds multiple times last year, and he did an awesome job, if not a little bit better in pass coverage. Tyrel Dodson proves that he can take on offensive linemen. He's strong enough to take on offensive linemen. He's strong enough in run support. And throughout the years since 2020, working with Bobby Babich and Al Holcomb now too, Dotson is much better in pass coverage. Now, Terrell Bernard, Balin Spector, also going to be competing for that spot. A.J. Klein is really there too, is Trayvon Howard as well. But I think A.J. Klein is more of that veteran that we're just going to have backing up things in case of an emergency during the season. So knowing that Dorian Williams is likely out for that middle linebacker role, it kind of narrows things down a little bit. It's going to be really interesting to see that competition and how everything shakes out. So that's some big-time news revealed by the Buffalo Bills. Also, Von Miller starting the season on PUP. Obviously, he wanted to avoid that list. Didn't want to start the season on basically IR, injured reserve. But he's going to. And we do have all throughout training camp. We still could take him off at any moment. But right when that season starts, you know, Brandon Beane revealed, you know, hey, look, if we know Von Miller isn't going to be back until weeks 4, 5, 6, you might as well just keep him on the PUP list. But if he's going to come back, you know, maybe week 2, week 3, maybe it's strategic to keep him off of it so we get him back sooner. And I said this in my previous video too, like having Von Miller on the field is much better than not. But the first 6 weeks of the season, it's an extra long season now with that extra game. We all know we're competing for a Super Bowl. It's longer with that playoff stretch, that playoff run. We much rather have Von later in the season than earlier in the season. Plus, it could be a strategic advantage here to kind of sort things out on this defensive line. We always work players in on a rotation, limiting their reps, but we need to see Boogie Basham. We need to see Shaq Lawson, Shane Ray, Leonard Floyd, Greg Rousseau. We want to see these players compete on the edge to see who we ultimately want here. Boogie Basham, this is a big-time year for Boogie Basham. Big-time year for AJ Epinesa. Seeing both go to the Rush Summit, Greg Rousseau and AJ Epinesa, Von Miller's Rush Summit there, I think it's just showing how mature they've come as players and their hunger to get better and better as players. Also, some other news was that Kyer Elam was with the second string. He was not starting. I guess Christian Benford was going against Stephon Diggs. Trey White technically was not really out there, I guess. Maybe working in a little bit, but so I believe it was Dane Jackson and Christian Benford were the corners out there. So how much does that mean? I guess we got to wait and see when the pads come on. Obviously, you hear the coaches talk about pads needing to come on, and also Mitch Morris revealing, don't look too much into the players that are out there today or the players that are working in different spotlights with the starting team. You don't know who's ultimately going to be starting, especially on this offensive line. Connor McGovern, the highest paid free agent for the Buffalo Bills, working between Deion Dawkins and Mitch Morris on that left side. The real question mark here is right guard. Who's going to start at right guard for the Bills? Also that competition with Spencer Brown and Brandon Shell at right tackle. We all know Spencer Brown having offseason back surgery last year, not really having a full offseason to work on himself, but now he does. Trey White does. Micah Hyde does. All these guys are going to be ready to go for 2023. I think we have a ton of answers to these questions that we've been wondering. Can Dorian Williams actually start for the Buffalo Bills at middle linebacker? That is checked off the list. That is not going to happen. Von Miller starting on the PUP list is looking more and more realistic, which could free up an additional roster spot, especially for this deep defensive line that we have. Kingsley Jonathan there too. Poona Ford, Jordan Phillips. We have so many guys. Tim Settle, too, really needs to set up being a free agent signing last year. It's crazy. It's crazy all the players that we have on this team, as well as wide receiver. Gabe Davis, man. Stephon Diggs hyping up Gabe Davis, really saying, Gabe Davis caught way too much flack last year. He's a great wide receiver, one of the hardest workers on this team. So I really think Gabe Davis is going to be a huge piece. Dalton Kincaid just being sticky, having great body language per Josh Allen. That's a great thing to see. Josh Allen reading the body language of Dalton Kincaid. Man, it's going to be kicking off hot in 2023. Hope you guys appreciate this video. Day by day, we're going to be dissecting training camp interviews, highlights, and so much more. So hit like, subscribe. Check you guys soon. Go Bills.